Hello again and welcome to another Articulate Outburst podcast. Again, I've got a bower on. I think I mentioned it in the previous stream. We're experimenting with headwear to give us a point of difference. Could be a bit childish, but hey ho, bit of fun. I think it was red last time, it's blue this time. I don't plan on spending a gazillion quid in hats, but it's just a little bit of fun, a little bit of puts an interesting spin on stuff. Other hats have been ordered for the rest of the band, but you'll have to wait and see what they're going to be. And yeah, so it's a point of difference. That's all I'm going to say on the subject. And so thanks very much for staying with us for these podcasts. I think we've gone through quite a little bit over the last few months. We've talked about what inspires the band. We've gone through the first album. We've gone through the way in which our thinking is shaped based on the ever-moving political picture, culture wars, and just about everything else that's kind of happening today. We live in a world of fast-moving, fast-paced media, and as a result of that, I've got an endless supply of inspirations for our songs. Obviously, we fall out about in the band, we fall out about talking about what we've got coming through the sausage machine, and this is a kind of a double-edged sword, really. You really want people to be surprised when the first records come out, but we're nearly that time. We're in the studio very soon to record 3 from the next album. Those 3 are Sandstorm, Blue Checkmarks, 1984. The album itself is called Heroes and Bad Actors. I think I might have alluded to this before. And this is pretty much the pantomime of what the internet, YouTube and the media have subsequently become, whereby the story is no longer the story, it's people's opinions of the story that's forming the main narrative. So you'll regularly see so-and-so says, and I think this was focused pretty much by the Russell Brand affair, even though I wrote the concept of the album about a year ago, that whether he's guilty or not, and generally speaking, there's no smoke without fire. Not that I'm going to cast a man his guilt before he's been through due process of law. The amount of conversation that's gone on surrounding all this and the amount of jump-ons from just about everybody has been interesting. And then ultimately, obviously more silt's been dragged up from the pond. That's another line in another song which will be on the album. So there's a whole kind of, almost like a circus really. And that's what Heroes and Bad Actors is. You've got the heroes where certain media figures are portrayed as the arbiters of all this. And then I really wanted it to be called villains, but the villains are just not really that good, are they? So they keep getting wheeled out, and obviously you've got to have a balanced panel and everybody wants to fall out and everybody wants to stake their claim in what they want to say. So the whole album, to be fair, is kind of captured by this insanity. It's also got quite a little bit to say about cancel culture. There's this kind of, if you go back to the Salem witch trials where an accusation was as good as done, only needed for somebody to say something, and the stakes were high back then. It's no different now with speech. A government minister, I believe, wrote to the social media platforms to ask what was going to be done about Russell Brand before due process of law. This is before any guilt has been established. This is when there's just a smell. There's no actual allegations. There's no police investigation. I find the man unfunny, if I'm honest, although recently I've had to watch a few of his podcasts in order to get a better handle on him, and I've got to say most of the time I end up turning it off because he grates on my nerve endings, but he's also got quite a lot to say, and I think he's got quite a few good insights certainly into the American industrial complex and Big Pharma. Whether that's had anything to do with his attempted fall from grace, God only knows. And obviously the legacy media, BBC and everybody else, are losing customers left, right and centre. You've got to argue, having a go at the competition might just be in some way in their best interests to do. So other than being drowned by opinion, drowned by nefarious nefarious bad actors and obviously heroes. I quite like how the tabloid press have certain heroes and then quickly they can become villains when things turn. But that's really what this the second album's all about. And those bad actors could be a plethora, not just in media, but there's quite a lot of scientists now who are just producing results that they're paid to find, as opposed to the idea of a scientist tapping his pencil and experimenting for his own amusement has long since departed. Big business requires certain results in order for them to analyse, and obviously, science has become one of those things. So it also drifts into the area of the green industrial complex, the censorship industrial complex, and all these things are coming down the tubes. We're going to get less in the future if these people are allowed to get away with it. So really the only reason I'm kind of mentioning this album now, because it's a while before it's out, we're actually recording the first 3 songs of it very shortly. And I'm kind of at least not glad to see the back of the first album, but you just know that its course is run. The first album was us smashing down the doors, announcing our arrival, a little bit of controversy, a little bit gobby, a little bit, how can I put it, brutal, a little bit uncouth would be perhaps the best way to describe the first album. Ruffling a few feathers, it's uncouth. But the second album is much more nuanced, a lot cleverer, a little bit more subtle, saying things in a very, very surreptitious way, as opposed to just blaring it out on pub rock and roll. I think that's because we've matured as a band. We want to go into different directions, and we want to improve what it is that we've done. Just doing 3-minute punk anthems, it's great music and it's great within a set, but there comes a point where you have to kind of develop and move on from that. Although there are quite a few punk anthems on this album to keep the faithful happy. So turning to the album itself, and there's no strong order of the songs. These are just what I've currently written, and obviously we're going to be recording Sandstorm, Blue Checkmarks and 984, and the song that cried wolf if we get time to do it. And that's a unmitigated, no nonsense punk anthem. Really came from nowhere. But I'll do each song individually in its own separate stream, as you'd expect, because there's always more to it than what I'm saying. Obviously within that, and this is based on the kind of lost boys and girls, and what the lost boys and girls were all the people that have disappeared through cancel culture, people that used to be first and foremost on our screens, and now they do not exist for a multitude of things that no one's ever been convicted for. And the Lost Boys and Girls was actually dedicated to Nicki Minaj. Now I've got to be really careful when we skirt around the issue of the thing that kind of got everybody into lockdown and the solution that presented itself. And people's comments in and around it have had some severe consequences. But Nicki Minaj, I think, somebody had quoted as saying, or she'd said on some stream about something that had happened to a relative of hers, and ultimately she were off Twitter faster than a striking rattler. And I just thought, wow, somebody with that kind of following, not my kind of music, but it has its place. Somebody with that kind of following and that kind of what you'd assume to be power, certainly in the here and now, and certainly within identity politics, if you like, to be literally rubbed out just as quick as that of social media was a little bit strange. And obviously the Lost Boys is from Peter Pan, where they all come in and everybody I think knows the story behind that. But I thought Lost Boys and Girls, obviously for inclusivity, because as many women have been cancelled as men, I would guess. And this is again, which is a real worry, which leads into 984. If you're going to shut opinion down, then it's not really a solution to arguing that point, having those opinions aired and discussing it in an adult way. And I think that the minute things are shut down, or the Salem witch trials, is a witch, I can't say the words in case it's illegal on this channel, but would be to, well, we know what they did with them. So to scream that out loud and for that to work, it's almost like now, and the song that Cried Wolf lends on this. There are certain words that are attributed to people now, which you can never come back for. And that is now being used, I dare I say it, as a weapon, weaponised language. If it ends in cyst or schism, you're in trouble. So that's pretty much that one. Cathedral, again, we're exploring that power structure, how it works, how it operates, how it doesn't move. And then eco-terrorist is an even greater spin on the way in which, well, you've seen the 20 miles an hour in Wales, cars driving around in first and second gear. I suspect they'll pollute more, which will then give more information, more reason to move it to 15 miles an hour. And then 10 miles an hour, and before you know it, you'll be walking, irrespective of anything else that's coming down the tubes. So eco-terrorist has a tendency to kind of move into that sphere. So again, we've got a real mixed bag, not so much on the culture wars, but a little bit more on the power structure and the hierarchy of things. And to be honest, I just think that the music's a lot better. We're looking at ways in which to make things sound differently. We're elongating quite a lot of strings. We're discussing a lot more how things should go together. There's a lot more eeriness to it, a little bit more weirdness and mysterious. We're also going to be experimenting with a few tricks used in the past and forgotten about recently, such as some maybe thinking about putting some bits and pieces into both Sandstorm, some sound effects in Sandstorm, and maybe some quotes, because 1984, George Orwell, I read it again recently, and it's on YouTube. You can get interrupted by adverts, but I'd suggest anybody watches Animal Farm, listens to Animal Farm or reads it, and 1984, listens to it or reads it. They're both on YouTube. It's free, and it's always good to know what was going on. And oddly enough, with it being the anniversary of, it's the 75th anniversary next June of when Orwell released 1984. It was in the June of 1949, because he wrote it in 48. He swapped 4 for 8. He swapped it round. But the book wasn't released until 1949 in the June. So I think that there's got to be some kind of tie-in with our 1984 and maybe the anniversary of Orwell's book. There's quite a few Orwell lines in the song, but I won't go through that. Do that in its own independent stream. So really, that's kind of it for this week. If you could ring the bell, subscribe, share as much as you can. Getting a little bit of flack on social media from a few music sites that have clearly misunderstood the purpose of the band and the songs, but you know, at the end of the day, some people just don't quite pick stuff up without having to, read a little bit more and study a little bit more before coming out with opinions. So like, subscribe, share the video as much as you can. I'm going to keep doing this weekly podcast no matter what. And next week I'm going to be covering Sandstorm. And the only reason I'm covering these is because we're going into the studio to record them. And most importantly, up and coming is our 50th episode. Yeah, I've been rambling on for almost 50 episodes. And although it doesn't sound like a lot, that's quite a lot of information implied. That's quite a lot of how we think, how we feel, how we've written the music, and a little bit of that. So there'll be quite a lot on the 50th episode. We might actually show a little bit of the recording, because as soon as the recording's finished, we can release it almost immediately. So it's not like we're giving any secrets away. And it's quite interesting, really. So I plan to do that. Blue check marks, obviously, that's the new currency that we seem to kind of be all beholden to. You'll always see now in the newspaper X amount of followers on Twitter, X amount of followers on Instagram, as this is some kind of currency. 1984 is one of the songs that we're going to do. So in episode 49, in a prelude to the live acts, I'm going to do a little bit on Orwell. I'm going to do some quotes. I'm also going to talk about the song, but most importantly, I'm going to talk about George Orwell, because I always feel that history is not linear, it's circular, or it is linear, but certain things repeat. I think it was Thomas Sowell said, if you want to know what humans are going to do in the future, have a look at what they did in the past. And I think that's quite a poignant, I think it was Sowell that said that, but I think that's quite a poignant quote. And then obviously we'll be on to episode 50, which will be the recording studio. You'll see how something that's quite rough to start with progresses into a finished song. So that's up and coming. Again, thanks very much for your support. Thanks for all the emails. Again, I think I'll pick an episode where we go through all those again, go through some of the negative comments that we've had, as well as the positives. You know, I've got broad shoulders. I'm not really bothered what people say. And that's really it for this episode. Let us know what you think about the hats. I'm not too sure about which colour's best. I'll be rotating mine on here just for a little bit of variation. Can't always guarantee that the hat and the shirt will match, but I'll do my best. And again, subscribe, like, share, ring the bell, much appreciated. And comments, put some comments in the comment section, it's always appreciated. The algorithms are the algorithms, YouTube only works on those bases. So thanks very much for tuning in, much appreciated, and thanks for your support. And just to let you know that we're playing cancer charity, Macmillan Cancer charity. We're headlining at Holbeck Working Men's Club on the 11th of November. So that's a date for your diary. If you can't make it, if you could contribute, if you go onto our Facebook page, you can find the link. If you could contribute, that'd all be well and good. Obviously everyone's giving their services for free, and we're trying to get as many people there as we can. It's centrally located in Leeds, just outside the town centre. It's big, it's cheap for beer, so come on down, have a great time, and we'll put on a show. And we'll be putting these new records to you, see what you think. But yeah, other than that, that's pretty much everything from me, and I'll see you in the next stream. Thanks very much.